Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I'm real excited about this because this is a really good book. It's a novel, and it really cuts to the heart of some very interesting things in the Bronx. The author is now I'm going to show you the book, but it's got green on it, so it's going to kind of reflect a little bit. I don't know if I can get to the whole cover. The book is called Victim. The author is Andrew Boryga. Andrew, nice to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Let's just talk a little bit about the background. Your background is in the. You're not in the Bronx now, but your background is in the Bronx. Tell us about where you grew up and how that informed things like this, which is really, in my mind, a Bronx book.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, no, I'm a Bronx boy through and through. Grew up Bedford Park, not too far from your Lehman College studio over there. So
Exactly right.
I know that area well. Yeah, I went to elementary school, middle school, the Bronx public schools, and then
Which high school we want to know?
I went to Mount St. Michael for high school.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So still the Bronx. People say it's Mount Vernon, but it's still.
No, 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 no. It's a Bronx. Don't
That's
mess
right.
with me, man. Come
I
on. I'm
know,
a
I
Bronx
know.
boy.
I get, we get stuff from the Hayes guys all the time. So
Oh, okay.
you
Good for
you know
you.
how how that
Well, they
rivalry
did
goes.
win the championship this year,
Yeah,
so
yeah. We
little
don't got
respect.
yeah.
So you grew up there, and you went to college somewhere.
I went to
Just that
college at Cornell. Yeah, upstate.
Cornell.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, and so then my question was, how did that inform, or how does that background inform your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that you say it's a Bronx book because to me,
It is.
the Bronx is a huge influence on me on the way that I write, the style, the slang, the dialect, the humor, the way that we have a knack for sort of looking at really tough things and issues in a way that is, from a standpoint of empowerment, I think, and just getting through it and not necessarily feeling bad for ourselves. And there's a toughness that you just develop in the Bronx to get through things that I think informs my writing and my
I,
approach.
I use that four-letter word, "tood." We all got
Yeah,
a little. We
yeah,
we in the BX got a little tood,
that's right.
and
That's right.
that really, to me, it kind of sums it up. So then, your growth also as a writer. Did you always want to be a writer? Did you one day say, "I got this idea for a book," and that was in other words, how did we get from there to here?
Yeah, no, great question. It started really with journalism. I started writing. Actually, my first writing job was for the Norwood News out in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I was a youth intern at the Norwood News with Jordan Moss, who was my editor at the time, and journalism was really the first avenue that I even understood was available to you as a writer. I didn't really, when I was 16, 17, I didn't think you could be a fiction writer. That was a job that you could try to, go for. So I focused on journalism first.
And if you say you grew up in the Bedford Park area, the Norwood News, there you go. You were
Yeah, yeah.
literally ingrained in your hometown.
No, I loved it. That was one of the coolest things ever to just, write stories that I saw people in my neighborhood and my community reading, and I would go to the diner and it'd be there, and it's still there. And I'm very happy that they still
The
exist.
paper still exists.
Yeah.
Now it all comes full circle, and we don't pull punches in the Bronx. It was through Jordan Moss that we made the connection with you. That he sent around, hey,
Yeah.
you guys should check out this book,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was like, well, wait a minute, if it's a Bronx book, I got to have it on the Bronx Buzz, and so again, going from that to writing more longer form.
Yeah.
How did we do that?
So that transformation or where fiction came into the picture really happened in college, when I was exposed to novelists that who were writing stories that really resonated with me
Oh,
personally a little bit more. Ernesto Quinones, Bodega Dreams, Juno Diaz, Drown, and authors like that, where I wasn't really exposed to them as much growing up in the Bronx. But then when I got to Cornell, we were studying them, and I learned, these various styles, and basically learned that it was okay to write like a Bronx
hmm.
book. I didn't necessarily know that. We were reading, Hemingway and Mark Twain,
Sure.
not great novelists, great writing, but very different style than what you would encounter in the
For
Bronx.
for the record, I was an English major at Lehman College, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand And I talk about it all the time, how the stuff that I read, the same classic writers that you just talked about, gave me a way to look at the world. And when I opened my window in the Bronx, that's what I saw, and that's how I, began to understand it, et cetera, et cetera. And so from that, now this is your first book.
That's my first book. Yep.
First book,
Yeah.
um, painful to write, easy to write, difficult to
Well,
write.
it took 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Respect, man.
Yeah.
No, and I say that because that means you had to be dedicated to it and see the end of it for all that time.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So this is a story, uh, about a hustler,
Yeah.
from a family of hustlers. Why don't you recount the story a little bit? And again, it resonates to me, and you recount it, and then I'll tell you why it resonates to me as a
Yeah,
Bronx book.
sure, sure. Yeah, so it follows this character Javi, who's a young Puerto Rican kid in the Bronx who has dreams of being a writer, and basically around the time he's
Gee, I
heading to
wonder where
college.
you came up with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, where did you get that one from? Around the time that he's heading to college, he sort of realizes that he comes from a somewhat traumatic background, and realizes that he kind of there's some currency to that in this media publishing industry that is suddenly really interested in highlighting diverse voices, and in particular diverse voices that have trauma to talk about. And so he sort of recognizes that this is happening, and he does have sort of this hustler entrepreneurial instinct, and decides to start pimping out his own story, basically, to entice these editors that he's trying to entice and impress. And that begins a slow slide into actually making things up and going way too deep, and sort of losing the plot in the process.
What's there's a number of different things here. The first thing is his desire to succeed and saying that this is what I want to do. But because of his background and the difficulties in his family, he believed that he was going to be able to do this, not always telling the truth. That
Yeah,
that that he kind of became the character himself, so to speak, and he
yeah,
became a fictional character because he created a persona because he was, I guess, just felt funny about his past. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes in there. Um, uh, did you write out the plot and then fill in the blanks with the story, or did you start writing it and say, "Oh, now let's make him make up a lot"? You know what I mean? How
yeah.
did we get to that very very complex character?
Yeah, no. The first way you described would have been a lot easier, and probably would have taken me 10 years. But it was much more the latter. It was really a process of discovery. I think I had to just first learn who Javi is, and these other characters that surround him in the book, and that took a number of years to just even understand who they are. And then as I'm going along, I wrote different versions of this book. I just found different ways to tweak it and sort of really understand, like, what is Javi after he's this person who's disillusioned by an idea of success that is not actually something he really wants in
Because,
the end.
also because he never saw it in
Right,
his
right,
apartment.
exactly, right.
And there are revelations about white privilege that come through, the school to prison pipeline. All these things that are, frankly, around us in the buildings and the neighborhoods that you can see behind me, are in this guy's head. And it seems to me, I didn't get to the end of the book yet, by the way.
That's fine.
It
No.
seems to me he's on the way to sorting that out through this kind of personal. It's almost like creating a cartoon character
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Um, but here's my question to you, because as I'm reading it, and I appreciate what you say about learning the language and using down to earth language, and I call it Bronx language. That's my
I love
prejudice.
it. I love
Uh,
that.
but it's very readable, because I could relate to the voice in there. How much of that is autobiographical?
The book itself, no. There's, basically Javi
Wait,
is.
wait. So you're not really a nice guy who writes books? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, you got to finish the book. You might not like him as much by the
Mhm.
end, but he, I think in a lot of ways, his journey is sort of an alternative journey that I could have gone on. I did write a lot for these big publications and sort of interact with this media world and get an understanding of sort of what was expected of me at times and how some of that I wasn't it was not comfortable with. And so is sort of an ulterior version who maybe would have gone down the path of doing some things that I personally didn't feel comfortable doing in terms of the types of stories and the way to represent myself, and my community.
In terms of now that it's out, and of course we're promoting it, folks. Check out Victim. I'm assuming it's available wherever books are
No, it's
sold
it's it's available for pre-order. It'll
for
be out.
pre-order.
It'll be out March 12th.
Oh,
And
okay, good.
yes,
I'm glad
yes,
we established that.
yes, yes.
And then at that point, I mean, we're going through the traditional avenues to purchase books and find
Yeah,
out where it is.
anywhere books are available, and there's an event at the Lit Bar that I'm gonna do on March 19th.
Oh, that's right. I heard. I'm so glad you mentioned that because you were talking about being inspired by literature, and of course, we have a desert of books, and
Yeah,
thank you to our buddy Noel Santos for creating that. And I don't know if you've been down there.
yeah,
It
yeah. I've
is
been
just
out. Noelle and I know it.
wonderful,
Yeah, yeah. Noelle and I know each other, and
wonderful,
she's awesome.
wonderful selections of books. But now that it's done, do
Yeah,
you think about, gee, what I ought to do next, or we haven't gotten there? Oh,
of
you
course.
have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
You had a
I
lot
mean,
of time in that 10 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah. I've been thinking about it. I don't necessarily have the time to write it right now, but
right.
it's definitely I'm gonna write something else, and I love writing fiction, so I hope to.
And here's a leading question before we wrap this up. Um, do you think now that you've done it and you've been through the process, it'll take you shorter than 10 years?
I really hope it's.
I hope so. Goodness, wouldn't that be nice? All right. So, Andrew Boryga, thank you so much. You are one of us, and
Thank you, man.
I'm curious. I'm sure that when you see things where you are now, he's in Miami now, folks. When you see things, you still translate it through your Bronx tude, if
That
you will.
that never leaves, man.
Never leaves.
It's in my heart.
It's beautiful. Listen, so the book is Victim, Andrew Boryga. It's a novel. It's fascinating. If you're a Bronx person, you will find something in there for you, and you'll find it easy to read because it'll be in your language. So, Andrew, congrats on the book. Let's not wait 10 years till the next one.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right. Thank you. Folks, that will do it. We want to thank Cullen for joining us in our first segment. We thank Andrew for joining us in this segment. And you know what we always say, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, I'll be back next week. Good night.